Hi friends, I'm back with the third session of the Elegy written in a country churchyard by Thomas Gray. And you remember in the last session in stanza 16, I talked about those people in power, those people who may be in rulership or kingship. They have the advantage of showering benediction of wealth upon a smiling nation. But these people who are in the country churchyard lying, buried unknown, they do not have the advantage of showering such benediction upon their subjects. But in this session, the first stanza that I take up, stanza 17, says that if they have not been able to shower benediction, they have also been saved from certain crimes which are associated with people in power or people in high position. For example, let us come to this stanza. Their lot forbade nor circumscribed alone their growing virtues, but their crimes confined, forbade to wade through slaughter to a throne, and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. Okay, so here they have been circumscribed, restricted from committing crimes which are associated with people in high station, and they're growing. Instead, their virtues have grown, they're growing virtues, but their crimes confined. Crimes have been restricted, which may be bloodshed or killings, whatever, and they have been forbade to wade through slaughter through a throne to a throne. So here, to reach the throne, one may have to lay down a series of dead bodies, and one may create a lot of bloodshed to reach the throne. But they have not, laid down such a series of dead bodies or created such slaughter. They have been saved from such committing such such atrocious crimes to reach the throne, and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. They have not shut the gates of mercy on mankind. That is, they have not been ruthless. To shut the gates of mercy means to be ruthless. They have not been ruthless upon mankind. And in the next stanza it says, the struggling pangs of conscious truth to hide, to quench the blushes of ingenuous shame. So these people who are in high station thus take recourse to crimes to reach a certain level, and naturally they may suffer from pangs of conscience. Okay, that is guilt, feelings of guilt may trouble them, and they may want to cover up their shame, ingenuous shame, that is their natural shame. They may want to cover up their natural shame which arises from such deeds, but and try to forget that the blush of ingenuous shame, which guilty deeds may give rise to, or heap the shrine of luxury and pride with incense kindled at the muse's flame. Or they heap the shrine. Shrine is a temple of luxury and pride. Luxury and pride are the ungodly gods, okay? The ill-begotten qualities. All right? So they do not have to cater to feed these ill-begotten qualities in their temple or in their shrines, okay? So these people have been saved from committing certain crimes which are associated with people in power or people in high position or people ruling. Nor do they have to with incense kindled at the muse's flame. It's referring to again poets, Milton here, the poets, they have not had to burn scented incense, meaning scented candles, before the muse, that is the goddess of poetic inspiration. So they have not had to burn scented candles for poetic inspiration, nor have they had to invoke or worship the muse, the goddess of music and songs, poetry. They have been saved from all such appendages which one requires to acquire fame and glory, right? And so in the next stanza he goes on to say that far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learnt to stray along the cool sequestered vale of life. They kept the noiseless tenor of their way. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife. Here we are taken to the city, and madding crowd is the maddening crowd, or the unruly, chaotic crowd of the city. They are far from that maddening crowd, and they have not taken part in ignoble strife, in senseless, struggles, senseless quarrels, senseless fights. So they are prevented from all these of the city. And also, if you remember that Far from the Madding Crowd is the title of Hardy's novel, Far from the Madding, which he wrote in the Victorian age later. All right, and their sober wishes never learned to stray. They have never deviated from their humble ways, humble wants and humble ways of leading life. Along the cool, sequestered vale of life, they kept their noiseless tenor of their way along the cool, sequestered vale of life. That is, they have led the very peaceful, tranquil. Sequestered means tranquil, peaceful, calm. So they have had their valley of life, vale of life, journey of life in a very peaceful, tranquil surroundings. Okay, and their life has been cool and tranquil, and they have maintained a noiseless tenor, a peaceful course of life, a quiet course of life. Okay, they have not deviated from that humble peace and tranquility. Now let us look at some of the figures of speech in these gone three stanzas. For example, gates of mercy. Gates of mercy is a metaphor. Okay, mercy here has been compared to a palace or a mansion whose gates would have been closed upon mankind. All right. Then again, crimes confined or mercy on mankind. These are alliterations. That is, the same letter being repeated one after another, again and again. Right. And then in the next stanza, in ingenuous shame, they want to cover up their ingenuous shame. Now that is an example of personification. All right, abstract human qualities or personal attributes are transferred to abstract ideas. And the shrine of luxury and pride, this could be called a metaphor. Okay, the shrine is a temple, so it has been compared to the temple of luxury and pride, the temple of ungodly gods. And then muse's flame. The muse's flame actually stands for poetic inspiration. So another example of a metaphor. And madding crowd. Now, madding crowd is a personification, and also it is a personal metaphor. That is, some abstract ideas are attributed to animate objects. Okay, and then ignoble strife, again, senseless struggle, another metaphor. Wheel of life, another personal metaphor, where abstract ideas are attributed to animate um, uh, animate objects. All right, that is why it is a personal metaphor. All right, and then suppose we say sequestered veil of life. Now, what is that? That is a transferred epithet. All right. Here, tranquility has been transferred to life. All right. So it becomes a transferred epithet. All right. So thus we have some, figures of speech, rhetorical figures of speech again in these stanzas, and then we come to the next stanza. Yet even these bones from insult to protect, some frail memorial still erected nigh, with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture decked, implores the passing tribute of a sigh. Maybe even these bones which are buried in the graves to be protected from cruel insult of poverty, cruel insult which may be given to poverty. Some sort of memorial has been erected upon their graves. Okay, maybe somebody has written some uncouth rhyme, that is, somebody has written some unsophisticated verses over the graves. Okay, or somebody has made some crude sculpture, rude verses, crude sculpture, okay, with which he has adorned the graves, and uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture, so some kind of crude sculpture. And these things, these memorials, slight humble memorials, have raised a passing sigh from a passerby. All right, a sigh of sympathy from a passerby. Their name, their years, spelt by the unlettered muse, the place of fame and elegy supply, and many a holy text around she strews, that teach the rustic moralist to die. Their name, their years, spelt by the unlettered muse. Okay, so somebody, some rustic villager has probably written their name and the date of their death upon the grave, and that has been written by somebody who is not educated, and so it is a very crude, very rough way of remembering the dead. And that itself, however, is a memorial which supplants the fame, which supplants the memorials of fame and elegy. All right, and many a holy text around she strews, that teach the rustic moralist to die. So many scriptural verses, okay, amateurish scriptural verses may have been inscribed on the graves, which allow the dead to, the simple villager, to die with a peaceful heart, and with tranquility, resigning himself to God. These very amateurish scriptures of the verses have allowed the rustic villager to die in tranquility and peace, right? And for who, to dumb forgetfulness a prey, this pleasing, anxious, being ever resigned, left the warm precincts of the cheerful day, nor cast one longing, lingering look behind. These people who have died, they have succumbed themselves to dumb forgetfulness, senseless forgetfulness. Okay, and hadn't they at least wanted during the last moment of their life, some sort of remembrance, some sort of fond remembrance from their near ones, from their near and dear ones, loved ones, the pleasing anxious, have they not been little anxious for some sympathy, for some love, affection from their near ones before giving up their life? And have they not left this very tranquil, peaceful, comfortable, beautiful life, that the happy life that they had led? Have they not cast back at least one long lingering look before they left this life? Had they not wanted to cling on a little bit to this life? So here we have, examples of the last long lingering look, right? Now that is of course an example of alliteration, and it is also a rhetorical interrogation. That is, have they not wanted to have one last glimpse of their life that they are leaving by, that they are passing by? And the question itself contains the answer. That is why it is rhetorical interrogation or eroticis, right? And dumb forgetfulness is a personification. It could also be a transferred epithet or a hyperlage. That is, dumbness is transferred to forgetfulness, which again has been personified, right? All right, so in the next stanza we come to, or on some fond breast the parting soul relies, some pious drops the closing eye requires, even from the tomb the voice of nature cries, even in our ashes live their wonted fires. Okay, so have they not, these dying people, when they were dying, have they not sought for some sort of comfort, from the some tears of sympathy which come genuinely from the heart, pious drops, some few tears of sympathy and sorrow which come genuinely from their loved near and dear ones, or from their friends, close friends? Have they not wanted that, craved for that, or been anxious for that? Even from the tomb the voice of nature cries, because even from their graves, their ashes contain the wanted fires, the passions and desires of the living are there in the ashes of the people in their graves. Okay, so have they not wanted such life, such sympathy and love from their loved ones? And have they not wanted the desire of life to be in their ashes, which are there in their ashes? For thee, who mindful of the unhonored dead, dost in these lines their artless tale relate, if chance by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire thy fate. Because one who lies in these in this graveyard, unhonored, unremembered, prey to dumb forgetfulness, somebody passing by may have wanted to hear the life story of the person lying dead, and somebody may have related their life story to this passerby. Okay, so some sort of remembrance there must have been of the person who had once been living, had enjoyed a calm, tranquil, happy life, and has left with a little lingering for the passion and the desires of life. Now, you will notice that in these stanzas, the poet has transferred us from the very you know, glamorous world of glory and power to back again to the tranquil, peaceful, calm, indolent life of the countryside. So we are back again on our journey to romanticism. Okay, we have come back to the country, right? And so we have left the madding crowd of the cities, we have left the bloodshed of the high and the rich, and we have come back to the peaceful, calm, happy, tranquil, domesticated life of the country. And thus we are on towards our journey to romanticism. Okay? Maybe some hoary-headed swain may say, oft have we seen him at the peep of dawn, brushing with hasty steps the dews away to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. And now the poet transfers the focus from the series of graves in the country churchyard to one person, okay, to one person who has led his life in the country and has grown old in the country and who has been noticed by his fellow countrymen. Okay, haply some hoary-headed swain, some grey-haired native of the village. Okay, again another alliteration. Some grey-haired native of the village may have seen this man upon whom the focus now lies at the peep of dawn, early at dawn, brushing with hasty steps the dews away to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. Maybe this man has been running through the grasses and brushing away the dews on the grasses to see the sunrise from the hill. There at the foot of yonder nodding beech that wreathes its old fantastic roots so high, his listless length at noontide would he stretch and pour upon the brook that babbles by. There under the beech tree, okay, the nodding beech tree, the man possibly would have lain down, and the beech tree is so old and its roots are so wreathed, so twisted, and he would have lain down for hours listlessly, indolently, lazily under the beech tree, contemplating and pour upon the brook that babbles by, and just looking at the babbling brook. It's an onomatopoeia that is, we can hear almost the lilting sound of the brook, the babbling sound of the brook. And we are back to the romantic, landscape where the mood of indolence, where a man just lazes his afternoons away under a tree looking at a brook. Okay, the same picture which has been taken up by Keats later in Ode to Autumn. So we have this kind of romantic atmosphere coming back into the poem, right? And hard by yonder wood, now smiling as in scorn, muttering his wayward fancies, he would rove, now drooping, woeful wan, like one forlorn, or crazed with care, or crossed in hopeless love. And this man has grown old. Okay, he has spent his days in indolence, in lazy happiness. Okay, and he has now grown old, and now he is smiling at his life. In scornfully. He is sort of done with his life, and he wants no more of it. He has no more crave for this life, and he is muttering to himself his wayward fancies, his imaginations, as he would wander about, on the countryside, drooping, in a sad, with a woeful wan, with a sad pale face, he would be just drooping by, and someone very lonely, and someone who was crazed with care, loaded with troubles of life, and he wants no more of life. He is resigned from life, okay? And he crossed in hopeless love. Maybe he has been failure in love too. Maybe he has been a failure in love, so having no more wants or crazes or desires of this life, flustered and frustrated with life. All right? And one morn I missed him on the customed hill, along the heath and near his favourite tree. Another came, nor yet beside the rill, nor up the lawn, nor at the wood was he. And this old man would one day suddenly be missed. That means he would die, and nobody would be able, persons who had seen him, rushing up to the hill or lying beside the brook, nobody would be able to see him on the customed hill, or along the heath near his favorite tree, or near his rill, that is the brook, nor up the lawn, nor in the woods. He would just be missed. He would just disappear. And the next, with dirges due in sad array, slow through the churchway path, we saw him borne, approach and read, for thou canst read the lay graved on the stone beneath yon aged thorn. And the next day, maybe with the funeral mourning, he would be carried on his grave, sadly, in his grave into the churchyard to be buried over there, and something could be written on his grave which everybody can read because it can be read, and something would be engraved on the stone, engraved on the tombstone, which would lie beneath maybe an old hawthorn tree, right? And so everything would come to an end, but very peacefully. He would have led a peaceful life, and then suddenly disappeared, and his grave would appear with something written on it under the hawthorn tree. Okay, this man, okay, who has been focused upon in these last stanzas of the poem, this man would refer to the poet himself. Okay? The poet himself would have wanted to lead a life like this, a romantic, indolent life like this, because he is, of course, a precursor of romanticism, and he would like to suddenly disappear and be buried like this, quietly in the country churchyard. And therefore, here Thomas Gray writes an epitaph, which is, similar to something that would be written on his own grave. He says, here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair signs frowned not on his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for his own. So here lies upon the lap of earth a youth who has been unknown to fortune and fame, fame with capital F, personified, and fair signs frowned not on his humble birth. He laid no claim to the onslaught of knowledge, and therefore no disturbance has been created in the world of knowledge because of his birth. And melancholy marked him for his own. He had led a life which had been, sort of conquered or owned by melancholy, the lady Melancholia. All right, so he had been led a sad and undisturbed, mundane life. Right? And large was his bounty, and his soul sincere. He had a wealthy soul, a very big heart, and heaven did a recompense as largely send. He was duly rewarded by heaven. He was taken by God, and he gave to misery all he had. A tear he gained from heaven, 'twas all he wished, a friend. So to misery he gave his woes, his sorrows, his tear, and in heaven he had won a friend, that is God. So he has reunited with God. No father seeks his merits to disclose or draw his frailties from their dread abode. There they alike in trembling hope repose the bosom of his Father and his God. So there is no need to rake up his vices and his virtues, no need to talk about his vices and his virtues. He's done nothing to disturb anything, and he lies there in just the hope that he may be reunited with his Father, that is the Supreme Father, and that is God. Okay, he has just this hope that he would be reunited with God, and thus he wants the poet here it is ultimately concentrating on the poet and the hope of reuniting with God and a peaceful death. Okay, thank you so much for listening to all these videos. Here ends the elegy written in a country churchyard. I hope you liked and enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.